Hello and welcome to Fast Effect Double Speed Magic the Gathering from ELD's Time Vault Games. This is the ELD Premodern Open from January. We are catching up several months backlogged here. We're going to get them all on the channel for you at double speed. Of course, the ELD Premodern Opens are also part of the New England Premodern Massachusetts Monthly, as supported by Duress Crew. We have a Fairy Conclave from Landstill. And Winter Orb lines up really nicely against that. I'm going to have to click through this one. Let me know in the comments if you can actually hear the clicking. Winter Orb swatted aside with a counter spell. A Standstill comes down. And the Mog Fanatic going to have to plow forward with a fatty. That's really what Green Stompy's all about, trying to get some type of giant creature to stick and hit your opponent a few times with it. Mungo Worm from Prophecy, a 6/5 Winter Orb stapled onto it, but one-sided and only for you. Towards the Plowshares, sends it farming. Coastal Tower adds to Claire's mana base. Now a Ravenous Baloth. Stompy looking to be able to play 4 mana cards. He's got some Mana Dorks on the low end, and then City of Traders and Ancient Tomb. Very easy to be making a huge play on turn 2, and then every subsequent turn, as that's basically all the deck is full of. Wrath of God clears the board, and unfortunately also takes that Llanowar Elf with it. City of Traders changing out for an Ancient Tomb, a more reusable source, but Claire has 5 lands in play here, so this Tanglewire not as good as it could be. He feels it's acceptable to waste a Chain of Vapor on it there. Oh, and this could be very bad. A Dust Bowl. Will Claire go ahead and take out Ancient Tomb? I suspect so. Ooh, interesting. Makes the play to sacrifice the Dust Bowl itself. Surprising play. Pressure's really on here. And yeah, we see that Wasteland. That would be a really good target for another Dust Bowl activation. Call of the Herd. Generally a problem for control decks. A 3/3 is a respectable clock, and it is something that has to be dealt with twice. However, here, Mog Fanatic's going to find himself using Elvish Spirit Guide just to cast the front half of it. Flashing it back is going to require a soul land as well. Mishra's Factory turning sideways. Claire holding back the mana for the Fairy Conclave. Has a ways to go thanks to the Swords to Plowshares and Ravenous Baloth. Standstill really good in this type of matchup. Stompy doesn't really have a way of playing around the Standstill. You kind of have to throw things directly at it, which is not ideal. Winter Orb does stick. I'm surprised the Wasteland didn't knock out the double blue prior to casting that Winter Orb. Would have been more likely to resolve, but there was no counterspell to be had. And another Chain of Vapor. These Chain of Vapor is just kind of tempo plays, allowing for an untap. Ooh, and now a Humility and a Scoop. Immediate Scoop to Humility. This card is a haymaker. I'm always surprised when I sell this card just how cheap it is. Looks to me like a card that could be $100, $200. Such a unique effect and incredibly powerful versus so many strategies against a deck like Stompy. I mean, they're just going to be paying 4 mana for 1/1s. That has never been a winning plan at any point in Magic history. Able to skip a series of mulligans there. Stompy going to be starting on 5 cards. Looks like, oh no, 6 cards. Erhnam Djinn, the last one to make it into the hand before shipping for the mulligan. And a textbook start, turn 1 Mana Dork. See if he has the soul land to go along with it. There we go. Turn 2, jamming a Urnham Djinn. This is the beatdown foil. And another Urnham Djinn. City of Traders joining in here. Mog has access to 6 mana if he needs it. Could be a fatty and a disruption piece very easily. In the same turn, a mana leak denying this Djinn, and now Sabo's Web. There we go, disruption. This card's generally a problem for Landstill. It's going to shut off Mishra's Factory and really blank the Fairy Conclave. But Claire's just going to keep moving forward, playing a standstill. She can always stand up the factory and block the Llanowar Elf, so she's currently fine. Not worried about the game state. With the standstill in play, Mog immediately cracking it, getting a Call of the Herd token into play. While the shields are down, that blue mana's tapped, and now also playing that Llanowar Elf. That's interesting. I don't know if I would do that. He's got a Call of the Herd token in play. Factory, tapping and trading with it. And flashing back. Claire is currently a ways away from a Wrath of God. No white mana on board as of yet. But if she does get to double white, that Llanowar Elf could feel bad. All right, 2-turn clock here. Baloth in play. Will he be rebuilding? We have a Swords to Plowshares taking out the Baloth. And a Chain of Vapor bouncing the token. Chain of Vapor is so good versus Call of the Herd. At least half of the card. You still need to answer the second half. And there's that Wrath of God mopping everything up. She's survived the storm. Looks like Mog. Perhaps 1 card in hand. Fairy Conclave. That's never going to be untapping. Not as long as these Sabo's webs are in play. Elvish Spirit Guide, just hard cast. It's actually a fun part of these green stompy decks. You get to play with some extra acceleration that occasionally works out. Now, interesting, I think she counterspelled that Elvish Spirit Guide and then played a Wrath of God. Oh, and back-to-back Wrath of Gods. That's interesting. She must have drawn Wrath of God 2 turns in a row there. Generally, you wouldn't counter a creature when you're just going to Wrath it away anyways. All of the Herd. Again, trying to create this board presence. Life total is low. Those Sabo's webs are going to prevent some of Claire's mana base from functioning. We got a mana leak. Now an Enlightened Tutor. For the humility. This was an immediate concession last time. But this is game 2. It would be conceding the match. Generally, you're not going to do that. Especially with only 4 life. Try and find a way to just get in there 4 more times. Look to dodge. Hey, that Llanowar Elf's as big as anyone right now. Now, Factory is a problem. For those unfamiliar with humility and how it interacts with your man lands, is Mishra's Factory, when it animates, will actually still be a 2/2 creature. I believe it's layer 6 that gives the power and toughness, and then in 7A, the abilities are removed. Well, that can't be right. That also sets power and toughness. I guess it is just a timestamp, so scratch that. a Standstill joining in. Moral of the story is the Mishra's Factory is definitely a 2/2 with no abilities, which is gigantic in a land of 1/1s. Even with those Sabo's webs, it can just stick around blocking. Would require getting at least 3 creatures in play. 2 would get by, and then 1 would get by. And of course, any piece of interaction would completely throw that right down the drain. Oh, another factory. The hole is just deeper here. Decree of Justice being cycled. Ooh, Naturalize. While tapped out, Naturalize takes out the Humility. Standstill being cracked. Player's going to have a boatload of cards in hand, but this board state kind of unlocked. Got 5 1/1s. The factories are now tapped down. Chain of Vapor, getting rid of the token. Per Magic's tournament rules, you do need to give your opponent the option to bounce. And, expressly say that they are not going to bounce. You need verbal confirmation now. Very easy thing to forget with Chain of Vapor. I'm actually in favor of that tournament rule. Let me know what you think. Mostly stemmed from search effects like Boseiju and other formats where they'd have an option to search for a land and they just would not remember to do that. All right, Mungo Worm. Also denied. Wild Growth stacking up. Another Sabo's Web. I mean, they're doing their job, but at least they replace themselves. Elvish Spirit Guide. No match. Or a fistful of cards for a blue mage. A Wasteland and a Tanglewire. Tanglewire, I mean, there's already 4 soldiers that you can just tap from this board state and leave all your mana open. Ooh, and another Decree. Decree looks like that's going to close the door here. And that's it. Handshake. That is the end of round 2 as we march toward the top 8 of this January ELD Premodern Open. Thanks for watching.